Hi everyone, today we're doing a motion tracking tutorial. We're going to learn how to track motion using the motion tracker, and we're also going to apply a sparkling effect to the motion track. So in order to get started, the first thing I've done is I've created a new composition, just a regular composition that's black, and I've got my piece of footage over here that I recorded of myself. So I'm going to drag that and I'm going to drop it down into my timeline. There's a little bit of awkwardness at the beginning, but we'll just leave that in there. So the video goes for almost 10 seconds. So my 10-second composition length is fine. The first thing that I'm going to do is, as you click through, you'll see that I've actually got a little dot drawn on my finger. I drew that dot on there to make the motion tracking easier. The way that the motion tracker works is it analyzes pixels. So if the pixels stay the same, the motion tracker can watch them move around the screen and keep a track of them. If those pixels change too dramatically, or if they disappear, then the motion tracker won't be able to follow it, and we get some errors and the motion track won't work properly. So if we look here, you'll see if I play this through that my hand comes up, my finger draws a circle in the air, and then it does a little tap and then it goes down. So in order to create the motion track, I'm going to use the tracker over here on the right hand side. However, there are just a couple of other things that we want to make sure we have in place first. So I'm going to go up to layer and I'm going to create a new null object. Now a null object, we may have talked about it in a previous tutorial, but a null object is a layer that doesn't actually have any pixels, it's only a set of coordinates. We're going to use that and I'll explain why we want to use that a little bit later. And then so the next thing to do is click on the drawing a circle layer. Now you can see I've got this option over here of my tracker, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to select track motion. We can use this to stabilize motion, we can use this also to track a camera, but our camera in this instance isn't moving, so we're going for track motion. Once we click the track motion option, we have the opportunity to choose position, rotation and scale, but in this instance we're just going with one. To keep it simple, we're just tracking the position. You'll see also now that there's a little box that's created here that says track point 1. The other thing that we've got over here is the motion target, and you can see that it's set to null 4. If we've created that null object and that's not our target layer, we need to make sure that we click into here and select that as our motion target. What that's going to do is it's going to track the movement of that dot, and it's going to apply that movement to the position of our null object. So we're going to get our little box, this little track point over here. The little X arrow in the middle, the little plus sign, is the actual pixels that it's going to look at, and then the box around, those two boxes around that little dot, that little plus sign, they are going to help us analyze the image. So the first thing we're going to do is click inside of that box and move it over to the little black dot on my finger. Now this is the area, so this is saying only look at these pixels, and that if we tried to do that, it would be an accurate motion track, but because it's drawing on a small area, if those pixels change between frames, move too much outside of that track point box, it's going to get lost. So what we're going to do is we're going to make the outside box a little bit larger, so it knows that it's looking for these pixels and it's looking for them inside of this box. Now all we need to do is click the Analyze button and the play button, and this will automatically follow those pixels as we go. So let's zoom in and have a look at what it does. If I click this one, it does it one frame at a time. So we can see if I click this one frame at a time, it's moving quite slowly, but it's keeping that position quite well. So if I press the Analyze Forward button, it will now go and follow the whoop, and we can see we got a little problem there. Our track box, it moved too far outside of our box, and so the track point got lost. So we're going to undo that, go back in and make our tracking area a bit larger so that it's got more pixels to be looking at to make sure that it's going to be accurate. Press the play button again here to analyze the target, and this time as it comes around, keeping that box, it's staying inside the box, and our track point is being more accurate. While that's analyzing, hopefully as it comes back around up to the top, you can see that we've got our full movement there. It's still analyzing. We see the CTI moving. It's analyzing. While it's analyzing, it can't zoom in and out, so we'll just wait for it to finish doing all of that movement. And as it goes down, it's going to try and follow my finger to the bottom out of the frame. Let it go right to the end, and give it a stop. And we can see now, if we come back, we can scrub through our CTI. Let's move that screen into the screen, and we'll see that what we get is we get a nice smooth track of that finger going all the way around. So the analysis is good. We're happy with that. So now that we're happy, we've checked it, it's doing what we want it to do. As that finger comes off the frame there, we're going to say we want to actually follow that finger down as it goes off the screen. A little bit lower there, and then go to apply, and when we apply it, it will take those tracking points that it's created, it's called tracker 1, and it will apply them to our null object. So we can click apply. It asks us over here, it asks us what dimensions do we want to apply it to. We're going to apply it to the X and the Y. So we click OK. And what we will see now is we've got our tracker here on our drawing the circle layer. But the actual null object has now got position keyframes, and it, so that as an object it will go with our tracking points. As it comes down to there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in, and I'm saying after that point I'm going to delete those keyframes, because after that point my finger is actually off the screen. So move that down to there. Okay, so now we've got our null object that has got those coordinates for position. What I can do to start with, let's illustrate how this might work. I'm going to create a new, and go to layer, create a new solid, but I'm going to make a little small solid, just 100 pixels by 100 pixels. It's a white one. So now we can see that we've got the white square as a layer here. We've got our null object, we've got our drawing a circle. So the main thing that we end up using our null objects for is to parent things. Because it's just a set of coordinates, I can now put my white square on a point, and I can grab the parent pick whip tool, parent it to the null object, and what will happen now is that the white square will follow my finger, because it will follow the the null object. Because it's parented, I can make changes here to that. I can make it smaller, I can make it bigger. This could be any object. I could make it rotate. It could spin around as it goes. It could be anything. I would, just by parenting it to the null object, all of the controls for the movement position are coming from the null object. I can also offset its position, so it doesn't have to be on the finger. I can simply grab that white circle and it will be over there, and it moves. It's going to move in relation to my finger, but not actually be on the tracking point. That's something else that we might find a use for. But what we're going to do now is we're going to create a new layer, a new full-size layer, a solid. I'm going to click OK. Whoops, we want it the size of the composition, so we go layer, new. When we create that solid, we're just going to click make comp size. It's full-sized. Now we're going to apply an effect to that, which is this sparkle effect. So I'm going to go up to effect. I'm going to come down to simulation, and I'm going to go inside of simulation. I'm going for particle systems 2, CC particle systems 2. So what that does is it creates particles. The particles are like from a particular point, they just sparkle out like crazy. I've got options what kinds of particles I use. My particle type could be a line, they could be little stars, they could be little shaded spheres, they could be faded spheres. Oh, I kind of like this faded sphere option. And I've got all these little controls over here, and I want to reduce the burst size. Sorry, the burst size is going to come down a little bit, and the depth size is going to come down a little bit. The other thing that I've got that I can control over here is the birth rate. So that means if I reduce that down, I get a few, and if I increase them up, I get a lot. I can also change other aspects in here. I can fade them out over time. I can have variation in their size, so they're all uniform, or they all go completely crazy, different sizes coming out there. Now, under the beginning size, so at the moment, they're just coming from that one point. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look at their, I think it's under the producer. I've got this option here to click their position and put it onto my finger point there. The other thing that I can change under the physics is I don't want them spraying out quite as much. So I'm going to reduce their velocity. So the velocity means how much do they blow out. And the other thing that we've got here is we've got gravity. So at the moment you'll see the particles come out and they fall down. So if I reduce the gravity down, I can make it look like they're hanging in the air, and they'll slowly fall. I'm going to reduce their velocity even more because that's pretty wild. I don't want them going quite so far. And if they're not spreading out as much, I probably don't need that many, so I'm going to reduce the birth rate back down like that. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change their depth size and make them a bit smaller. It's a bit more sparkly. I can change their burst size a little bit more, make them even smaller. The other thing I can change is the size of the area that produces them, so I can bring that right down to 1 to 2 pixels. I also have these options. I can direction, so they go out in one specific direction. I can direction normalize. I can also twirl them, but I'm just going to stick with explosive for the moment. So if we see this, this is going to start at this point and those particles are going to come out. So where I want them to start though is going to be where I start my movement. So I've decided that it's going to start here, so I can move that point by pressing the square bracket. The left square bracket will move the start of that layer to that point. Then what I want to do is grab the I can look for the same thing in here. If I go into effects, into particle systems, and I can pick whip the producer. Obviously I've got the parenting and pick whip here. I can pick whip, put the position of that point onto my null object, null layer 4. So remember I need to do that onto the position, not onto the null itself. So the null object got its position keyframes from the motion tracker. They're now being used to control the position of my effect. So now if I press play, you'll see that the sparkles will now follow the trail of my finger. And I kind of like that. I think I might reduce the gravity a little bit, and I might reduce their spread a little bit. So I can go in and I can be fine-tuning my particles in that effect. And there's obviously lots of other things that I can play with in there. I can change the color. I can do all sorts of things. So I still think that the velocity is too high. They're spreading out too much. 0.1, so it's nice little trail there now, and I'm going to make that gravity 0.05. So there's a tiny bit of droop, but not quite as much. And I'm also going to make that 0.05 so that that trail is not as obvious. Okay, so now if we draw that again, if we play that again, that little sparkle trail comes off my finger, goes around in the air, and it stays in that point until my finger drops down. I'm going to change, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to change those colors. I want to have a blue instead of an orange looking. I might go to a dark purple there. Blue to dark purple. Maybe lighten the blue. Make that lighter blue up there like that. And so as my thing draws in the air, it draws a blue line that goes purple as it fades out. Still think that's too bright, too dark. I'm going to start almost at white, like so. And draw a purple circle in the air. And that's how we make the purple circle. The sparkles following on from using the motion tracker. So the important point with the motion tracker is, number one, make sure that you've got a target to apply the motion tracking to, and that you adjust the little box around the pixels so that your movement doesn't get lost. It doesn't know what's in your image. It doesn't know what you're making, what your picture is actually of. All it knows is, I'm trying to follow these pixels that you've identified with the motion tracker. And so if I need, if I want to, if my movement is too sudden and those pixels jump over to this side of the screen, it doesn't know to follow them. So you need to give enough area to within that selection box to be able to follow along. Now that we've got our little video, our little animation here working, I think what I'm going to do is I'd like to, I think I'm going to fade my picture up. So I'm just going to go back to my first layer. I'm going to go T for transparency, opacity, click 0, click the keyframe, make it 0 at the start. So it's going to fade up over 1 second, draw the little circle, and at the end, just because of the timing, I'm going to make it start to fade out as soon as my finger comes off the screen. So there, I'm going to do another, click the little dot to make another opacity keyframe, and click 0. Click another opacity keyframe here, make it 0, and it will fade out. I will fade out, and the sparkles will then fade out over the last few seconds of the clip. So we have our animation set. Now that we've got our animation set and we're happy with it, we also need to know about exporting out our finished clip so that it becomes a video that we can submit, or that we can play, or we can post onto YouTube or Connect, or wherever we need to put those files. So now we're going to have a look at that. I'm also going to create this as a separate exporting your file from After Effects. So important things to know, the video that, so what we want to do is we want to go up to composition, because we're dealing with our composition, and up here we have two options. If we click add to render queue, we get an option here. If we click add to render queue, we get this here, and it gives us the option to try and render out. The render settings inside of After Effects are quite limited though, and we have two options. We have render settings and we have output module. The output module is the one that we're really concerned with. If we click on that, it gives us an option, but the option of the different types of files that we can output are very limited. If we choose lossless, lossless is going to create a file that is every single value of every single pixel at its full quality. That's great because it gives us good quality, but it's also difficult because it makes a absolutely massive file. So what we want to use ideally is our same codec settings that we used when we were exporting from Premiere Pro, which are the YouTube MP4 H.264 settings. So we can't choose those options here. So what we want to do is, instead of choosing the render queue, we're going to go up and we're going to go composition, add to Adobe Media Encoder queue. If I click on that, I've already got Media Encoder loaded up here. It will open in a second. Open up my Media Encoder queue, and here is where we are. So now I've got my project, and it's going here, motion track and sparkles, and I'm going to choose from my drop down the H.264 option, and there next to that I've got my YouTube 1080p full HD option. So those two options are good, and then just like we do when we're exporting from Premiere Pro, we need to nominate where we want to save our file. So I'm going into my 10pdm tutorials folder, and I'm going to save it here, motion track and sparkles, and then I can have a look at my settings down here, and it's going to be, I just need to shrink that so we can see it. Then if I click my start queue option over here, everything will work properly. Just need to double check something over here. And once I've got those settings correct, I'm just going to make sure that my options, when I click on here, is going to open this dynamic link connection. That's going to take a couple of seconds, and I'm just going to do this so that I can check what it is that I'm exporting. So if I bring this export settings down to have a look, this is the exact same window that I have in Premiere Pro, and it's telling me down here that I'm exporting the 10 seconds of my composition. I just want to make sure that I'm using that, and it's going to say under the options that I have to export that I can determine if that's too long. I've currently set to my work area. Under my source range, I've got work area. If I click that, I can choose the entire composition, or I can choose custom. If I choose custom, I can decide in here that I don't want to include the end of that. I want it to cut out. If I only wanted to export out 5 seconds, I could choose that here. So when we export, we want to make sure that we're not exporting more than we need. But because we choose the duration of our composition in After Effects, chances are we're usually going to want to work to that area. So if I have it by default set to work area, it's probably going to be the right amount. Once I've clicked OK, I can go, it's sitting here in my queue. I press the little play button and it will chug away, and it will render it out and export my file. Once that's finished, I can close that down. I can go into my Finder. I can choose 10PDM, go into my tutorials, and here, Motion Track and Sparkles is the video already rendered out. So there it is, my little sparkling video, and away we go. So that's how we export our finished videos using from After Effects. So remember, again, that step is, once I'm down here, go up into composition, choose add to Adobe Media Encoder queue. Once I'm inside the Adobe Media Encoder, I want to double check that I've got my settings correct. By default, they will be correct. If they will be set to render out the entire work area at the size of my composition. So I can just choose my H.264 and my YouTube 1080p Full HD. Okay guys, hope that was helpful. I will make another video just of the last part. Okay guys, hope that was helpful. I will see you in our class next time.